Senator Singh.
Mr Acting President, once again bushfires have plagued Tasmania for the start of 2019. It is not something that Tasmanians are unfamiliar with. We've suffered terrible losses around Lake Mackenzie in the Tasmanian Central Plateau in 2016 and the destruction of the fishing town of Dunalley in 2013. And of course, so many Tasmanians, including my parents, remember the 1967 bushfires that plagued the state, killing 64 people and destroying whole towns. But this January 2019 was Australia's hottest month since records began. It was Tasmania's driest January ever. The Tasmanian Fire Service has stated that fuel loads were 20 to 30% drier than average. Tasmania's maximum temperatures were much more than 3 degrees above the long-term average for the month. And so, of course, fires came, and they haven't stopped. Already, they've burnt some 3% of Tasmania's forests, with the Central Highlands and the Huon Valley suffering extensive devastation. It is a climate change tragedy, a tragedy that has, despite the outstanding work of firefighters from Tasmania, the mainland, our neighbours across in New Zealand, and even with the help of water bombers from overseas, removed a horrifying amount of the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area off the map. We have lost homes, businesses and tens of thousands of hectares of alpine vegetation. The flames were scorching the edge of the largest remaining forest of 1,000-year-old King Billy pines in the world. We have lost key wilderness tourist attractions like the iconic Terhune Airwalk in Geeveston. I have fond memories of visiting the Terhune Airwalk, the treetops of it, with my children when they were young. Everyone loved this incredible wilderness attraction of feeling like you were almost on top of the world, walking amongst the trees. But now the incredible photos taken by Matthew Newton of the ash debris after the wildfires just shows how devastating they'd been through Terhune and elsewhere. And the owner of the Terhune Airwalk, Ken Stronach, reflected, though, that we do have now an opportunity to recreate this attraction and give it a rebirth as the forest slowly regenerates over the years ahead. I do hope the Airwalk will take us into the sky again to join with Australia's tallest tree, which I am glad to report was protected from the bushfires burning in the Huon Valley. At 100 metres tall, the Centurion tree, a Eucalyptus regnum, and the world's tallest flowering plant, is near the Terhune Airwalk, but the Tasmanian Parks and Wildlife Service and the Tasmanian Fire Service were able to protect this globally significant tree that lives in Tasmania. As the fires burnt southern parts of the state, I was walking the iconic Three Capes track, 48 kilometres of cliff-hugging wildland in the Tasmanian Peninsula, which is just 1% of Tasmania's land area, but 1/3 of Tasmania's flora. What an incredible place our island home is, and what an amazing walk. From the Melaleucas to the moorland to the Cape Pillar Sheoaks and sea cliffs and view of past life with the lighthouse on Tasman Island, from the Blade to the fairy tale rainforests, then back on the coastal cliffs with Cathedral Rock, the Monument, Hippolytes and the Totem Pole, and all the Tasmanian plant species and wildlife in between. But as I walked along the cliffs, I could see and I could smell the smoke drifting all the way to New Zealand from fires 100 kilometres more away. In fact, it was reported that New Zealand firefighters were called to attend a fire near Milford Sound due to thick smoke in the area, only for the crew to discover that there was no fire to be put out and the smoke was indeed coming from Tasmania. Within this tragedy, though, heroes have emerged. Heroes like Geeveston pharmacist Ian McGill, who stayed despite the emergency warning for his town to ensure that other residents in the town had access to urgent medical support. Firefighters and volunteers and those that travelled from interstate and overseas to help protect lives and property. Local Tasmanian volunteer firefighter Tom Andrews missed Christmas, missed his son's first birthday, even missed his wedding anniversary. Local ABC radio was a vital source of information, and journalists routinely went into the heart of the action to keep us informed and provide life-saving warnings to local residents. But if the experts are to be listened to, this extreme heat is a sign of things to come. December 2018 was the warmest on record. Heat waves in every state and territory, according to the Bureau of Meteorology, who have warned that temperatures are set to rise further in years ahead as a result of climate change. Climate scientists from the University of Tasmania have warned that dry lightning strikes, like the ones that started some 60 fires across Tasmania in mid-January, including the fires that I've already talked about, will increase in frequency because climate change and the hot, dry conditions that turn Tasmania into a tinderbox will become more common. To quote Tasmanian author Richard Flanagan, Tasmania's World Heritage Area was our Great Barrier Reef, and like the Great Barrier Reef, doomed by climate change. Climate change isn't just happening, Flanagan points out. It's happening far quicker than has been predicted. Each careful scientific prediction is rapidly overtaken by the horror of profound natural changes that seem to be accelerating, with old predictions routinely outdone by the worsening reality. Hotter, colder, wetter, drier, windier, wilder, and even more destructive. Tasmania's iconic leather honeywood industry has been destroyed. Leatherwood honey industry has been destroyed as part of this as well. Even before the fires, these unprecedented temperatures had already dried the flowers of Tasmania's native leatherwood trees, unique to our island and found only in the cold and remote wilderness currently ablaze in the Gell River, Tahoon and West Coast blazes. The hives have now been burnt, and in the sad words of Tasmanian Beekeepers Association Vice President Peter Norris, leatherwood doesn't handle fire. It takes a couple of 100 years to come back. We're never going to see it recover. Once it's gone, it's gone. Meeting the challenge of future wildfire in Tasmania is a matter not just for our state, but also for this place. Australia already experiences severe problems with wildfire, coastal and river management, flooding and drought, and yet we're only at the beginning of runaway climate change. Red Cross's recent World Disaster Report 2018 ranked Australia 10th in the world for the cost of damage caused by disasters between 2008 and 2017, with a disaster damage bill of $38 billion. The damage these more regular extreme weather events keep delivering will demand money and time to rebuild, while also devastating productivity as higher average temperatures and lower rainfall smashes our agricultural production. Everyone knows that there needs to be action, and that action should have started years ago, but we really need it now. And that's why we do need bipartisan action from federal and state politicians to try and meet or mitigate this threat. Everyone knows that Labor is committed to cutting our carbon pollution by 45% on 2005 levels by 2030 and to reach net zero emissions by 2050. But at this moment in time, it's important to recognise how communities have come together in times of crisis like what we've seen in Tasmania, and the resilience of communities. And I want to thank every remote area firefighter who kept fighting those fires beyond exhaustion in conditions beyond imagination, every volunteer firefighter who worked day in and day out on the front line and behind in fire fronts to helping and protecting Tasmanian communities and every person in those communities impacted by the firestorm who have faced this disaster with courage and resilience.